We have all these statues, and the faces of the statues do not look like the Easter Islanders.
Why did these people go to such great effort to build these giant statues? No one else in Polynesia was doing that.
One of the most fascinating monuments on Easter Island is the stone platform, or Ahu.
For centuries, Easter Island has existed as both an archaeological puzzle and a cultural phenomenon. Known as Rapa Nui to its native inhabitants, it stands as one of the most isolated populated places on Earth, rising dramatically from the middle of the Pacific Ocean more than 2,000 miles from the nearest continental landmass. Yet from that extreme geographical isolation came one of humanity's most instantly recognizable legacies, the Moai. Nearly 1,000 monumental stone statues with elongated faces, deeply set eyes, and enigmatic gazes permanently fixed toward the island's interior landscape. The prevailing narrative about Rapa Nui has been remarkably consistent for generations. Historians constructed a story of ecological tragedy, describing a thriving society that supposedly descended into violent chaos after completely deforesting their island in a desperate effort to transport the massive Moai statues. This tidy cautionary tale about human hubris destroying its own environment found its way into academic textbooks, popular documentaries, and mainstream cultural consciousness. The Moai became frozen symbols representing a civilization that allegedly collapsed catastrophically under the weight of its own unsustainable ambition. But modern archaeological research is systematically dismantling that comfortable narrative piece by piece. Archaeologists now equipped with satellite imaging technology, advanced LiDAR scanning capabilities, and sophisticated ground-penetrating radar systems are uncovering fundamentally new truths beneath the island's windswept volcanic terrain. The story emerging from current research is not one of simple environmental collapse, but rather one of remarkable complexity, cultural resilience, and genuinely startling discoveries that challenge established assumptions. Beneath the familiar statues and volcanic slopes that tourists photograph, the Earth itself has begun revealing secrets that lay completely undisturbed for centuries. Recent excavations combined with environmental changes have demonstrated conclusively that the island's mysteries are nowhere near solved. In fact, the greatest surprises weren't standing in plain sight for everyone to photograph. They were buried systematically under accumulated layers of soil, volcanic stone, and time itself. What was once considered a static monument field documented and cataloged is now understood to be a living archaeological landscape. Essentially, an open historical book still actively writing new chapters as researchers probe deeper. The 2023 discovery inside the crater lake represents just the beginning of this transformation in understanding. In that year, a dry season unlike any in recent recorded memory dramatically transformed Easter Island's landscape. The crater lake inside Rano Raraku, the volcanic quarry where the vast majority of Moai were originally carved, began receding under relentless sun exposure. For generations, that lake had been an unremarkable feature, a mirror of reeds, mud, and relative silence that served as a natural veil concealing whatever might lie below its murky waters. As the waterline steadily shrank, something extraordinary that literally no one had anticipated began to emerge. It started as just the top of what appeared to be a Moai head, barely peeking out from dried sediment. At first, the archaeological team thought it might be a natural rock formation shaped by erosion into a coincidentally familiar shape. But as excavation crews from the Mauhenua indigenous community and collaborating international scientists carefully cleared away compacted earth, the unmistakable contours became undeniable. This was absolutely a carved face, perfectly symmetrical and clearly deliberate, complete with the distinctive elongated nose and angular jaw that defines Moai sculpture. It measured approximately 1.6 meters tall, making this newly discovered statue significantly smaller than the island's iconic giants, some of which tower over 10 meters in height. Yet its location made it nothing less than a revelation that challenged fundamental assumptions. Never before had any Moai been discovered inside the crater lake itself. The Rano Raraku quarry was extensively documented over decades of research. Archaeologists had meticulously cataloged hundreds of unfinished or partially buried statues scattered across the quarry's exterior slopes. But the lakebed interior was confidently assumed to contain nothing except centuries of accumulated sediment. This discovery proved that assumption was catastrophically wrong. Terry Hunt, one of the leading international archaeologists specializing in Rapa Nui research, called the find an incredible gift from nature, noting that the unusual drying of the lake created a once-in-a-lifetime window into a previously completely inaccessible area. The confirmed presence of even a single moai in that unexpected underwater environment immediately suggested that additional statues might lie hidden beneath the remaining mud, perhaps representing entire generations of monuments potentially forgotten by both recorded history and oral tradition. What genuinely stunned local researchers even more than the discovery itself was the reaction from Rapa Nui elders. According to Salvador Atan Hito, vice president of the Ma'uhenua indigenous community, even the oldest and most detailed oral histories preserved by the island's people contained absolutely no mention of any statue beneath the lake. He explained in media interviews that even their ancestors apparently did not know this moai existed, as if the island was deliberately revealing something it had chosen to keep hidden for itself until this precise moment. The discovery immediately raised profound questions that researchers are still working to answer. Why would a moai be positioned inside the lake? Was it intentionally submerged as part of a specific ritual offering with spiritual significance, or was it simply abandoned before completion and later gradually swallowed by rising water levels over centuries? Could this particular statue represent a rare symbol connected to fertility or purification rituals, both of which held deep spiritual meaning in Rapa Nui culture? Preliminary soil analysis provided a few tantalizing early clues. Core samples extracted from sediment layers surrounding the statue revealed distinct strata of volcanic ash intermixed with ancient plant matter, strongly hinting that the area might once have been considerably drier, perhaps even fully walkable terrain before centuries of gradual water accumulation transformed it into a lake. That would mean the statue could potentially have been carved or deliberately positioned during a period when the crater was still a dry basin. Subsequently, environmental and climatic changes could have slowly drowned it, inadvertently preserving it like a perfectly sealed time capsule in protective mud. For scientists, the implications are genuinely staggering and far-reaching. This single find dramatically expanded the known geographic distribution of the Moai cultural tradition beyond the quarry's slopes and established coastal ceremonial platforms, extending it into a completely unexpected aquatic environment. If this one moai could remain entirely hidden for centuries beneath a lake that researchers studied for decades, how many more might still be sleeping undiscovered beneath soil elsewhere on the island? Satellite imagery and advanced radar scans conducted after the initial discovery have already revealed additional anomalous shapes beneath the surface of the same crater lake. These are faint electromagnetic echoes that could represent buried stones, collapsed statues, or carved fragments yet to be physically unearthed and examined. Excavation proceeds slowly and deliberately, constantly hindered by legitimate preservation concerns about damaging fragile artifacts. But one conclusion is absolutely certain now. The Rano Raraku crater lake is no longer viewed as empty geological space. It's now understood as potentially a crypt of stone giants, long forgotten and patiently waiting. The surprise emergence of the crater lake Moai sparked an immediate surge of renewed curiosity among both archaeologists and local indigenous researchers. If one complete statue had been hidden in what everyone thought was plain sight for centuries, what else might be concealed beneath Easter Island's rugged and deceptive terrain? That question triggered a new wave of systematic exploration, this time relying not primarily on traditional shovels and brushes, but on satellites, electromagnetic sensors, and ground-penetrating radar technology. Over the past decade, archaeology has fundamentally transformed from a discipline focused mainly on physical excavation to one increasingly centered on seeing through the earth using non-invasive technology. On Rapa Nui, this technological revolution has been absolutely transformative. Research teams from Chilean and international universities have systematically deployed ground-penetrating radar, sophisticated magnetometers, and detailed LiDAR mapping to scan beneath the volcanic crust without disturbing archaeological context. These advanced instruments send carefully calibrated electromagnetic pulses deep into the soil, creating remarkably high-resolution images of subsurface features without requiring any physical digging. The results emerging from these scans have been nothing short of astonishing and paradigm-shifting. Beneath areas once confidently dismissed as archaeologically barren, scientists are now detecting anomalous stone densities and geometric void spaces, signatures entirely consistent with deliberately carved objects or constructed buried chambers. In several key locations near the Rano Raraku quarry, radar imagery has revealed long vertical shapes strongly resembling the buried torsos of complete Moai statues extending multiple meters below the current surface. Many of the Moai visible today, especially those appearing partially buried, actually possess full torsos and intricate engraved petroglyphs existing completely below ground level. Now, the latest comprehensive scans suggest this phenomenon might be far more geographically widespread than anyone previously believed. Potentially, hundreds of additional statues could still lie completely buried, perhaps deliberately toppled or intentionally covered during specific ritual phases or major environmental shifts. That's it for today, folks. See you in the next video.